Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. And going from thence, he saw two other brethren, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in a ship with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them. And they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him. And I'm going to stop there. I want to talk just a little bit about following Jesus and where he leads. You know, back when I was 10 years old was when I first heard Jesus say to me, "Follow me." And I started following. I had no idea when I started following Jesus at that age where following Jesus would lead me. Just like Peter and Andrew and James and John had no idea when they followed Jesus where that following was going to go. You know, Peter's following and Andrew's following didn't end up in the same place. Now, they both continued to follow Jesus, but Peter was never Andrew, and Andrew was never Peter, and their following didn't go in exactly the same direction. The same with James and John. Now, they were fishermen to start with, all four of them. They started out as the same thing, and they didn't end up, their following was not exactly the same. And that's very important for us because our following will eventually lead us all to heaven, and the path that we will be following is the straight and narrow path, but it doesn't always go to the same places. And you say, why are you talking about that now? In 1982, I was a school teacher down in teaching at the Winston Mennonite School down there. In 1982, Dorcas Yoder was teaching at Lake Creek Mennonite School. And in 1982, Ernest was teaching up at Porter. We were all three teachers, and I had met Dorcas a little bit before then, but we all kind of met each other on the way to going to a teachers' convention up in Seattle, Washington. And how long we stayed teaching varied a lot between the three of us. I taught for about the rest of my life, and Ernest taught for, I think, about a half a year, and Dorcas taught for the rest of that school year, and but you know, we have all three continued to follow Jesus in different paths. I was thinking about that a little bit yesterday when Ernest was speaking at the writers' conference that Dorcas invited him to come and speak at. And we met 31 years ago, and our following Jesus has led us to different places, but it has always had, what did Jesus say? Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And I have been a fisher of men while I taught school, when I did mission work up in Canada, when I working with Open Hands and pastoring in this church. Ernest was a fisher of men as he taught school, and then as he became a minister in Minnesota, and then as he moved to Los Angeles, and now he's doing something entirely different. One way which Ernest and I are very similar, and that is in our 60s, we had our careers change quite drastically. But I'm so thankful that as we follow Jesus, he will lead us, and he's leading us to heaven, but he's not going to necessarily tell us where we're going to be serving him ahead of time. But as we are determined to follow him, he will give us that direction, and I am thankful. We sang the song, the last song that Kevin read, and it talked a lot about Jesus being our shepherd and leading us and guiding us and that sort of thing. And sometimes it's through hard times and sometimes it's through difficult, but we can always depend that he will be there. And I can say that from my own personal experience, that as I have followed Jesus, he has always been there as long as I have been committed to following him. Let's pray. Father, we praise you and honor you this evening. We are gathered here to worship you this evening. We are here to learn from you, learn from what you want to teach us. And I just pray that as we are here, that our hearts would be stilled before you, that we would be able to understand what you want to teach us this evening, that we would be able to honor you and glorify you because you are our great God. We want to thank you that we were called in the past to follow you. We received that invitation, and we want to thank you that as we have followed you, that you have given us grace and given us mercy, and you have helped us to learn and to grow and to be able to follow you and to become fishers of men. And I just pray, Lord, that as we are here this evening, that you would continue to guide us and continue to teach us. I just pray for Ernest as he speaks to us this evening, that you would just give him the words to say, that he would be able to impart wisdom to us. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I want to call Ernest up here, and he's going to be sharing, I believe, some about the new ministry that he has been involved in. So let's give him our attention. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. And it is good to be back. As he just shared, it was about 31 years ago. Is that what the math said? 41 years. Yeah, that when I first came to Oregon. And it's been a winding journey. Sometimes up and down, back and forth. I'd like to introduce you to Yvonne here tonight. She's been the most significant piece of my journey the last number of years. Our third wedding anniversary is coming up here on the 27th of February. So she comes from Maryland, the state of Maryland, where she was born, and then she eventually found her way to northwestern Pennsylvania, involved with Faith Builders there, both as a student and then became a teacher and a mentor, and then eventually this wild guy from California discovered her, and we have been real gifts to each other these last 3 years. And she knows the experience of loss as well, and married later in life, and then her husband got leukemia, And before they had celebrated their first anniversary, he was gone. So our stories are similar in that we have experienced loss of loved ones, but very different as well. So might get into a little bit more of that later too. Out on one of the stands is our newsletter with Aquila Villa. I think it was David said he'd never heard of Aquila Villa before, and I don't know that I've ever been involved in a ministry in transition, because I bring you a newsletter that says Aquila Villa and a presentation that says Stories Made New. So as of the first of the year, we went through a name change and a little bit of a reset with the ministry, the girls' ministry. We actually prefer to refer to it as a young ladies or young women's ministry, because we only accept young women 18 to 40, so it's hardly girls. But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. I think I have so yeah, before we get into the Stories Made New ministry, I'd like to bring you up to date a little bit on our family as well. Oh yeah, let's sing this song. I think I taught you this song some years ago, right? And it goes right with what Brother Paul was saying. You know, we follow Jesus, and yeah, we sign our names, as it were, at the bottom of a blank sheet of paper, and we just let him fill it in. And we trust him in that. That's what trusting Jesus. You know, there's the Romans road, there's the different concepts of what it means to, you know, accept Jesus and so forth. But in a nutshell, this is really what it's all about, simply saying yes to him and surrendering our lives to him. So let's sing this again if you can still remember. I say yes, yes, yes. I say yes, yes, yes. I say yes, Lord. I say yes, Lord. I say yes, yes, yes. I'm not sure how much of our story we should share. You might be interested because you've been kind of walking with me and a bit. So we met in Sacramento. Laverne Yoder with Streetlight Ministries. Are you familiar with what they do there in Sacramento? Laverne would be Yvonne's brother. And so I had known Laverne for a number of years, and he had invited me to serve on the board there. And so where we first met, it would have been in 2017. Her and Lavelle were married in 2016. And so she had experienced her loss, and I had heard her story. She had read my book, and so she kind of knew my story. I had heard her story, but I did not realize that this woman who had lost her husband without even celebrating the first year of marriage was Laverne's sister. And so I was up at a board meeting. I was still living in Los Angeles at the time, and then they always wrap Christmas gifts after the board meeting, and so across the table from me wrapping gifts was this lady, and we just start talking and sharing, and then I realized that, oh, this is the lady I had heard about. Oh, so you're Laverne's sister. Anyway, so that's how we first met. And she was just recently widowed, less than 6 months. It never occurred to me at all that the Lord would lead us together sometime. And So then the next year, I'm coming up to this annual board meeting again, and what do you know, she's there again. And so I tell people that I chased her until she caught me. Not really. It really didn't even occur to me that second year much either. I mean, I observed her as a beautiful woman. And then the third year, I was driving on my way up to Sacramento, and it occurs to me, I wonder if Laverne's sister will be there again. And I think that's when it first began to resonate with me that I wonder. But I got up there, and she was nowhere to be found. And so, but if you know me, I don't give up that easy. And so we had our board meeting, and of course Laverne is there, and her other brother, Dennis, who's an older, still single guy, kind of like David back here, faithfully serving the Lord. The two brothers are still there at the table, and so I just, hey, how's your sister doing? And what do you know? Next thing I'm saying, I wouldn't mind learning to know your sister better sometime, but I don't really want her to know that I want to know her. Because, first time is challenging enough when God leads you together as a couple. But when you've been married before and you have children and all of that, it gets much more complicated. And so, anyhow, the brothers, they kind of, ooh, so this is the kind of guy we got on our board. It's like, but very soon, Dennis, who still lives in Pennsylvania, said, well, you get to Pennsylvania once in a while, don't you? And I said, yeah, in fact, I'm scheduled to be there in March. And, well, next time you come, you just give me a call and drop by. I'll introduce you to he's an accountant. He said, I'll give you a tour of my office. And have you ever visited Faith Builders? No. Well, I'll give you a tour of Faith Builders. And usually when I have friends, my mom, who lives right across the street, she'll say, well, bring your friend over for supper, and he said, if she does that, he said, I'll make sure my sister's there too. So I call him my facilitator, Dennis the facilitator. So sure enough, I flew in March. He didn't tell me that Philadelphia was the opposite corner of Pennsylvania, Guys Mills, 6.5-hour drive. You don't just stop by, But determined as I was, I drove the 6.5 hours, and sure enough, I stopped by, and we had Mom asked us across the road for dinner, and sure enough, his sister was there, and we had an awesome, good, fun time. The Yoders are very inquisitive and full of questions and conversation, and of course, I love to talk about Los Angeles, and so conversation flowed very well. And walking back across the street to Dennis's house, I said, he said, did you have a good time? And I said, yeah, I really had a good time. And I said, I don't know your sister very well, but I think she had a good time too. And he said, yeah, she had a good time. And so, yeah, I was still praying about it, and for another 8 months prayed about it, and I was back in Pennsylvania later in August that year, and that would have been in COVID year, 20. And I was keeping in touch with the brothers. Hadn't contacted her dad yet, but the brothers were keeping them in the loop, and kind of told them, I think I sense the Lord is leading me this direction, and then also where my kids come into this, I wanted somehow my kids to meet her before I said anything to her, but my oldest son had met her. His wife is kind of connected to her first husband, And so they had met, and so I was talking with him about it. And one time he just said, Dad, he said, if you feel like this is what God is calling you to do, just go for it. He said, we'll catch up to you. And that was exactly the nudge I needed in August. And so I called her dad up. Dennis, my facilitator, had given me the dad's number. And I mean, she was 42 years old. She could have made her own decision, but I wanted to honor her father. And yeah, you have to know Ray Yoder, but I called him up and, oh yeah, brother, yeah, California, how you doing? Yeah, good to hear your voice again. And I said, I just wasn't going to beat around the bush a whole lot. I said, I'd like to learn to know your daughter a bit. Oh, really? Wow. Oh, yeah. And he started laughing. And he actually gave me her phone number before I ever asked for it. And later, when at our reception, he got up on the platform barefoot. And I went, what's Dad doing up there barefoot? And he started telling this story about how I totally knocked his socks off by... So he gave me her number. That was a Sunday. And later that Sunday evening, I called her, played phone tag a little bit. She tried to call me back. I tried. Eventually, late Sunday night, we connected. Told her that I had been praying about this for about 8 months, and if she needed 8 months to work out her side of the deal, why she could have as much time as she wanted. And then I said, in the meantime, she said, yeah. She said, I don't think I'll need 8 months. She said, maybe a month or so. And I said, I'll pray for you in the meantime. And so we prayed right there on the phone. And she told me later, she said, I could have married you right then. Yeah, just the fact that I was willing to pray for her and walk with her. So any guys out there, be sure and pray with. So about a week and 1 day, 8 days later, I got a text from her, and she said, I have my answer. You can call me anytime. The rest is history. So that was free, no extra charge for that story. Yeah, I thought you might be interested. So we say yes to God. And somewhere, I should let her tell some of this. She had read my book. She had heard me preach, too, once. And I think we sang this song. And where she, fairly recently lost herself, just that thing of surrendering to God, saying yes to Him, it really meant a lot to her. And so I've often said, I'm really glad I taught her how to say yes. So she was saying yes to God, though, not to me yet. So anyways, we have a wedding 3 years ago, and this is both of our families. When we refer to her family, it's her siblings, her parents, and then her siblings here, and some nieces and nephews, of course. When we refer to my family, it's my kids. So, how much older do you think Yvonne is than I am? Shall we let them guess? We had somebody guess her at 64 the other day. I'm 62, so she does have more gray hair than I do. But anyways, there's about 16 years difference between us. And it was a little bit of an adjustment for my oldest daughter. So she's closer in age to Karita than she is to me. And so that was a little bit of an adjustment. But she's been very, very good. They've become very good friends. They're both teachers. They have that in common. And so Karita is very, very supportive of us. So, and we do have a few more grandkids since then, which I'll show you here shortly. This is the Yoder family, her family, this past Christmas. And then we had our Christmas last year in July. December gets so full and so complicated that we decided to, so this is in Colorado. And my youngest son, Christopher, and Kimberly, she was pregnant at the time and was not feeling well, and so they weren't able to be there, so kind of brought that picture in later, but we were all there in Colorado at a beautiful lake. And I think, Jojo is here, but Asher and Teresa actually have another one since, Ashira. And so she's not on the picture, but 5 little grandbuddies, and with Ashira and Jojo, 4 granddaughters. For some reason, the grandbuddies came first and the granddaughters came next, but we're all there together. Do pray for Asher and Teresa these days. Asher has just in the last couple weeks developed some health issues that they're not sure what's going on. And so last week they had some blood tests. Saturday, just yesterday, they did an MRI. And so pray for them. We don't know what's up. But God does, and we trust him. Stories made new. This is another picture of the main home here. So we were invited 4th of July, a year ago, this past July, we were contacted about joining the ministry there. And at that point, they opened a second home, this is Happy Hoof Lane here, and our home is on back beyond here, and we'll show you that in a minute. But it was new to us because my passion has been primarily men, working with men, and then marriages, and then family, kind of in that order. I never would have thought that God would call me to. I have 2 daughters. I love them dearly. And Yvonne is a teacher, not a counselor, really. She didn't think she was. I think she does amazing with these young women. So it took us a while to kind of adjust to the idea, but we just kind of prayed about it, and one step at a time, and eventually by September, October, we had pretty much given them our answer, and then in January 1st, we moved into the second home here. This is Mel and Barbie Esch. They founded the ministry 7 years ago. He was one of the pastors at Charity Fellowship. They have now moved on to Crossroads. It's right there in Lancaster, one of the churches. It's kind of a fast-growing church right there in Lancaster, where they are now. And so they are on leave. So we were there 6 months, and you could call it a bait and switch, but that's not really. We knew there was some things going on. There's some adjustments, some resetting of the program. But we did not realize that in 6 months we'd be asked to serve as interim administrators. We did agree to function in this capacity for 1 year, and we trust it will be 1 year, but who knows? We have mentors. Used to call them matrons, but have decided that it's better to call them mentors. And this is an outgoing mentor. She just completed a 2-year term of service, and Emily is still with us as a mentor. And Lavina is domestics. Lavina came in as a resident a number of years ago and has done really well, and she is in domestics. She mows the grass and just really keeps that place humming. And and just her, she's one of those people that God has done such a beautiful work in her, that just her presence just brings a calmness, and she has a sense of humor, and yeah, the girls all just love her. So she may well be a mentor someday herself. This is everybody before their sabbatical started. Between the two homes, we can accommodate 7 girls, young ladies, young women, I should say, plus matrons. At this point, we had 3 matrons, and plus domestics. And so that's everybody there this past probably July or so. Mealtime there with all of us at one table. This is our board. We have a very unique board. The chairman of our board is Old Order Amish, Leroy Smucker. He had actually left the Amish church as a young man, had a motorcycle, car, and everything. And he loved Annie. And he wanted to marry Annie. But Annie didn't want to leave the Old Order Amish church, so he went back to Old Order. And he is still Old Order. Very alive, life-giving Old Order Amish couple. He says, I didn't realize how beautiful Lancaster County was until I went back to my buggy. And it slowed me down. And now I enjoy the beauty of Lancaster County. And that's Leroy. Ken Shirk here, part of the Charity Christian Fellowship. He's on the board. Cleveland Sensing, Mid-Atlantic. Nathaniel Gingrich, also Mid-Atlantic. And then Mark King, who's Beachy Amish. Yeah, so this has kind of pulled me into a little more of a conservative segment of the Mennonite church. I've rather enjoyed it. Good men, just a very good board to work with. And we have enjoyed them very much, very supportive. Who do we work with? Single women ages 18 to 40, primarily from the Anabaptist community, not because we don't care about, or Mel and Barbie don't care about others. They do reach out. Mel and Barbie have spent time in missions themselves. They're actively involved with other community people. Just this past weekend, we're caring for, of course, they're not involved directly in the ministry now, in their leave, but they had an African-American young lady from Lancaster, spending some time with them. And but they've just sensed a need within our Anabaptist community for young women who get discouraged and struggle with depression and things like that. They stay for anywhere from 6 to 12 months. Sometimes, I think there's been a few times stayed over, more like 14, 15 months. 2 of our young ladies, I think, that are currently with us will probably be there over a year. We just graduated, the first since we've been there, and she was there 10 months. So kind of a rough idea, 6 to 12 months is what we tell them when they come in. Working through depression, some form of abuse, one or another forms of abuse. We don't advertise really that we work with sexual abuse victims, although we do have them, but just a part of the tweaking of the program that we have, Yvonne and I have initiated, is we take our sexual abuse victims to life counseling, and we feel like they're more qualified and more capable and more experienced. Got some excellent people on staff there, Elaine Yoder and others. But, there are all kinds of ways that young women get abused. Young men sometimes too, but of course we're working with women. Suicidal issues, behavioral issues, just sometimes just not, eating disorders. we try to provide a safe place, a family-like environment for them to be free to be who they are, to be real, be honest, but loved and accepted, but challenged. Kind of mix it all together as a family would. To bring young women who are struggling into fulfillment and purpose in Jesus Christ. The second, so we opened up our home, and I should have these slides ordered better. You still haven't seen our home yet, but our second resident came in, and she was as prickly as a porcupine. It was just like, whoosh. What did we get ourselves into? Is this going to ruin our lives? We were enjoying life, and suddenly we have a porcupine in the house, and it's just like, but this young lady, within a couple months, met Jesus. Such a powerful way. It has renewed my confidence that God changes people. And she loves Jesus. And it's not that it's been all easy. There's been ups and downs. But she always comes back to Jesus. He is her safe space. Our mission to help them deal with and work through life-dominating problems, to give them loving nurture, discipleship, and care, to help them learn and value discipline and purposeful living through a structured home setting. I think that term structured is a good word in there. As all of us know, the second law of thermodynamics is that things go from order to chaos much easier than the other way. Naturally go from order to chaos. But I think there is a bit of a, it's possible to be too structured, I think, and too rigid. And so that's some of the tweaking that we're doing and helping with right now. There needs to be some flexibility. Part of their agreement in coming in is they give up their cell phones, they give up their car, and so it can feel kind of like they're going into prison almost. And so, yeah, there's value in that. There's a lot of value in that. But at the same time, we want them to feel free and flexible. Give them vision and understanding of the joy and blessing of serving others. That's a big key to it as well, as we all know. Again, it's when you can get the focus off yourself onto the Lord and onto others. Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between. Yeah. This is morning time, discipleship time. We gather as a group around after the breakfast. Dishes are all washed and scrubbed, and we've been out for some morning hikes, and we come back at 9 o'clock and have discipleship time together for an hour and 15 minutes. We usually start by singing just the hymn books, and sometimes we'll play some other music, and we have, some variety there, but usually just good old-fashioned 4-part harmony, and it's a fun time. Discipleship class there, I'm teaching, but as you might suspect, it feels strange that a guy would be teaching the women all this time. It's just, and so I love it when most of the time Yvonne is doing the teaching, and I would love to. She's a elementary school teacher, and so, but these young women enjoy her elementary style approach a bit. And I'm going to flash through these next slides rather rapidly to show some of her teaching here. You can tell she's an elementary teacher, right? So she was teaching out of John Bevere's book, The Awe of God, I think published in 23. A great book on, our culture tells us that we should not fear, and we wear these T-shirts that say no fear and stuff like that. And obviously that's part of the truth. God has not given us a spirit of fear. But this book emphasizes how there is a holy, perfectly healthy kind of fear that we have of God, which is more this reverence and awe, and it's so important to keeping us on track with who God is and where He's calling us to, and so. But we have an enemy that wants to drag us back into fear, the wrong kind of fear. So we need to focus on Jesus Christ. Yvonne is an excellent teacher. She does really well in that capacity. And, teachers tend to give assignments, and then they complete the assignment, they move into the next level, there's more measurable progress when it comes to this kind of work. Counseling, it's a little more, it's harder to really know where you're at, and sometimes they're doing really well, and what do you know, maybe even the next day, they're, oh man, did we make any headway, and so it's a little challenging in that regard, but Yvonne is a very patient person. Singing there again. Meditation time, this would be over in the big home. Brother Mel, you see that big smile on his face? That's kind of who Mel is. He just loves humor, and he's chuckling most of the time. And that's who Mel is. Journaling, it's a big part of what the girls do. This is Verba. She's the one that graduated here last week. And God has amazing plans for her. But it's been a challenging journey, and she's hanging in there with the Lord. Here's a workbook review time. So we do that discipleship time at 9 every morning, and then every week each of the girls get some one-on-one counseling. And so while that is happening, then the other girls work through their workbooks. And what's going on here? Here is Emily, one of the mentors, and Lori, one of the residents, bonding. And Lori's story would give you nightmares if you knew her story. Emily has come alongside of her and walked with her in such beautiful, caring ways. And there is a real bond there. Emily's committed to be there as long as Lori's there. When Lori graduates, then Emily will probably move on. And we have we're a little short-staffed right now. So, but we have another mentor coming in May, and hopefully another one from Canada before too long. Some paperwork issues there, but if you have any young women who would have an interest in caring for others, let us know. During project time, they work on various things. This is one of the things that Barbie started. These 50-day in a card bottles. It's kind of like they wrap up little notes with Bible verses on, or little sayings, encouraging things, put them in a bottle, and then every day you can take one out. We take them and distribute these at little stores throughout Lancaster County, even spread across the nation. I think there's a place in Iowa that sells these, and Ohio and different places. So it brings in a little revenue for the ministry, plus it gives the girls project to work on. Like get well, you can get some comfort, victory, Mother's Day, service-oriented, friend to friend, birthday, cards in a bottle. Bible study workbook time, project time. I'm not sure what she's doing here, Is that one of... decorating the bottles. Yeah, okay, that's what's going on here. And some pebble art, also get involved with, just taking stones and putting them together in beautiful ways. We just buy these circular boards at Home Depot and paint them and then get some stones and make beautiful mottos and so forth out of them. We have a banquet room in the big home. There is a fairly huge banquet room. We can put in, I think, maybe up to 50 people or so at a time. We'll host banquets, board meeting kind of things. Sometimes Valentine's we just came through. So the girls get involved in serving. It's one way that they can focus on others and serve others. Here's the banquet room. Part of the banquet room. Valentine's banquet. This is little Blossom here. Sheep. We have some animals. We have some horses and some animals. And this little lamb was born and just fell in love with Brittany. Brittany fell in love with Blossom. And so anywhere Brittany goes, Blossom goes. And do some hiking around the property there. So here's kind of how it works. The resident young lady comes in, working primarily with the administrators. There's an application process. Before we accept them, they need to develop, those that are referring, whether it's the church or parents or whatever, need to develop a support group before we will accept them. And that helps them to get ready to come. And then it's also there in place to keep in touch with them while they're there. But most important, once they leave, it's still there where they can continue to care for them. And then we also obviously are involving their families as well. And there's a friends group. And there's a call list. So there can be a family members that they can call while they're there, a friends group that they can call, and of course they can call their support group while they're there. Certain times during the week, I think, is it 2 calls a week? I think 2 15-minute calls a week. And all of their incoming mail is reviewed. All of the outgoing mail is reviewed. And just really trying to protect the girl's environment while she's there. If, really bad news or disturbing news comes in from a letter right at a time when a girl is going through a very challenging, we may not give it to her for a few days or whatever. We just kind of monitor some of that. And then once they leave, as administrators, we only work through the support group. It doesn't mean that we would never accept a call or something from her, but the focus is with the support group, working with the young lady and reaching out to us sometimes. And then we always have, like if one of our board members can call the support group, someone on the support group at least once a month, and just, provide some good follow-up connection there. In the kitchen there, this is Sister Barbie. Well, you met her with Mel on another picture. Barbie is one of the most creative women I have ever met. It's just an amazing place. It's very attractive, and the decor and the grounds and everything is just like a little park resort. This is the family room in the big home. There's a fireplace right over here. one of the girls in particular likes to beat me in chess. So every chance she gets, she plays chess with me because she always beats me. And I think one time I beat her when she was sick. I beat her, but outdoor picnic area there between the two homes. Here is our home, Happy Haven. And right behind us here would be a pond. You'll get a picture of that after a bit. This is in the fall. The leaves are kind of on the ground there, but it's a beautiful place to live. Coming up Happy Hoof Lane here. This home, our home, Happy Haven, is way back here. And that was the first home on this property. And when this lane was put in, they had horses back there, show horses. And so they called this Happy Hoof Lane. It's kind of a fun place to live. The show horses aren't there anymore, but we do have some therapy horses. And fishing therapy. We also have fishing therapy. Do any of you ever experience fishing therapy, where you go out on the lake and you fish? And in Minnesota, where I spent many years, we used to ask the question, which is better, to be sitting in church thinking about fishing, or sitting in a boat thinking about God? Which would be best? This little pond, I have yet to fish in this little pond and not catch something. They're not real big, as you can see, but they are fish. And these here for a couple of days this summer, we were doing a lot of fishing, and the girls all caught fish. I think Yvonne maybe is the only one that didn't catch anything, but it's good therapy. We have a garden, a pretty big garden. Probably going to downsize that a little bit this summer. Lavina loves to keep the property good shape. Here's Blossom again. Blossom. So how can you help? Obviously, you can pray for us, and you can join our staff. And especially as I mentioned, we're looking, even someone short-term, if you have somebody that would just like to come for a couple months here yet before Martha joins us from New York State in May, and then Kim eventually from Canada. But so anybody that would like to come and live with us for a while, we're looking for staff. And our website is still aquilavilla.org. Haven't changed that yet, so you'll learn much more about our ministry there. So, what time is it? 7, and we started at 6, and we go till 10. Oh, no. I think we'll wrap it up here. I have some other things that I like to talk about. I think I've talked about these things with you all before. Family systems. One of the things that we're tweaking a bit. So you bring an individual in from a family, and you say, "Oh, Susie has problems." Really? Is it just Susie's problems? Nah. We all are part of the problem, and we're all part of the solution. And so we're looking at whole family approach to some of these issues. And once Mel and Barbie come back, we may expand their home to accommodate more girls and reduce our home to maybe more working with families, bringing families in maybe for a week at a time, or maybe just fathers in or many of these girls struggle with much of the wounding has come from men in their lives, and so that was part of the original. People say, well, why was it Aquila Villa? Shouldn't it be Priscilla Villa if it's a girls' ministry? Well, that was part of Barbie's vision, was that Aquila was a healthy man. He was a man of God. And working with Priscilla. But these women need good men in their lives and modeling and perhaps bringing healing, because not all men are bad. They're good men. And but in the whole reset of things, just still felt there was enough question people would be confused about that name. It's kind of a bit of a different name, and so they went to Stories Made New. God sets the solitary in families. He bringeth out those which are bound with chains, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. The message says God makes homes for the homeless, leads prisoners to freedom, but leaves rebels to rot in hell. And it's such a sobering verse. I used to focus only on the first part. God sets the homeless in families. I love that. But there's kind of a warning piece here too, and that is if we're not willing to come out and be free, and we just rebel against what it takes to be free, we're kind of left to ourselves. And part of being healthy people is learning how to live with other people. And spent a number of years in Los Angeles and worked with the homeless there. Yeah, I still get calls almost every week from someone in Los Angeles. And there are many reasons that people are homeless, but many times it's just simply because they refuse to do what it takes to learn to live with others. And have somewhere along the line, not, been betrayed by others, disappointed by others, hurt by others, and just cannot refuse to be hurt anymore. And so, to bring health and healing, I believe God does want to set the solitary, the lonely in families. And so that's kind of what we're all about. Thank you for your time here. God bless you. Thank you for being who you are here at Brownsville. I know that you know what it's like to struggle as well, and to be up and down and back and forth, and God is with you on the journey. And know that we love you, and we pray for you, and do pray for us. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for him? You must have done a good job of explaining it. No questions. Okay, why don't we all stand, and Kevin, why don't you lead us in a song, and after the song we'll all be dismissed.